Since it began, Cadillac has been known for designing and manufacturing automobiles of outstanding luxury, first-class comfort and convenience, and classic styling and impressive performance. Its reputation for quality is so widespread that even the name Cadillac has become synonymous with the best. So it should not be surprising that when Cadillac decided to create a two-seat roadster, it would be the ultimate luxury roadster. And that's precisely what Alante is.
This was meant to be the groundbreaking, futuristic Cadillac to bring GM into the future and beat all of the imports from Europe.
But it failed, partly because it required 3 747s and 2 transatlantic flights just to build one car. Today we're talking about the Cadillac Allante story.
One of the reasons Cadillac built this car was to compete with the Mercedes 560 SL, the R107, which is a pretty legendary car.
Yeah, that generation of SL sold in huge numbers, so Cadillac came up with the idea of what they codenamed LTS, which stood for
Luxury Two-Seater.
And that eventually became the Alante.
The Cadillac demographic was dying off. It was a geriatric demographic coming out of the Malaise era, where Cadillac was making these big, stuffy land yachts.
Now, what you gotta remember about this era was it was just an overall terrible time for all cars.
Yeah, absolutely. It was coming out of the Malaise era where everything was bloated, huge, soft, not necessarily very well constructed.
Yeah, and Cadillacs, even though they did sell throughout much of the 70s, right? They were no exception to that rule. They had Barry Manilow stuck in the 8-track player, driven by little old ladies whose heads could barely poke over the dashboard. They just weren't cool, and they weren't able to compete with this trend toward smaller, lighter, better made European luxury makes.
And they needed an image change.
They really did.
Cadillac's response to the growing wave of successful small luxury German imports was the Cinnamon. The Cimarron, which of course was a complete and total disaster. It had the appeal of me when I was 9 and about the same amount of athleticism. Seriously, this is what I looked like when I was 9. Not great, just like the Cimarron. But obviously, it wasn't a car that was designed to truly compete with the best of the Germans, because it was based on the Cavalier, which was a small economy car that was very successful, but had no real luxury performance attributes whatsoever.
With the 1980s came a newfound desire for edgy design, computer-aided everything, high-tech imports, and Cadillac figured if you can't beat the imports, you might as well join them.
Literally. No, I do mean quite literally. Despite having hundreds of designers and modelers in-house at General Motors, they decided to send the design and engineering processes of the Alante overseas to Pininfarina in Italy.
The partnership between Cadillac and Pininfarina began in April of 1982 when the chief engineer for Cadillac went over to the Turin Motor Show in Italy and visited several Italian design houses. And in that process, he discovered that Pininfarina was not only a design firm, but a genuine manufacturer that was building 25,000 cars per year. And when he got back to his hotel, he took out his tape recorder and said, "I know now how I'm going to do the car.
I now know how to do the
I now know how to do the car."
I want to record Mary telling that story. Mary is now Chief Engineer Hirschfield.
Oh, okay. Case you be Pininfarina.
What do I do in this story?
You're Pininfarina. You're telling me how many production cars you guys have. The name's Warren Hirschfield.
25,000 cars.
I now know how to do the car.
Now, the Cadillac design briefing was to create something that was, quote, timeless and aristocratic.
And they built something. Do you think it was either of those?
You know, all jokes aside, I actually do think that this is a very attractive design. It's very 80s, but it's actually aged really well. It's got a little bit of that wedge proportion to it, but one of the smartest things they did is they didn't give it any flashy chrome or excessive design that makes it look overwrought.
That's true. If you put yourself in the shoes of somebody shopping for a luxury car in the 1980s, The design of this, not only on the exterior, but the interior as well, is very forward-looking.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got this dashboard design that's angled toward the driver, the digital gauges, the computer readouts of the electronic climate control. It actually looks really good.
It's really cool.
It was up to Pininfarina to come up with the exterior design of the Allante, along with the interior, but General Motors was still responsible for powering this beast. Now, remember at the beginning, we said this car was targeting the magnificent Mercedes-Benz 560 SL. Well, part of what made that car magnificent was a huge displacement V8 in the front, powering the rear wheels. Now, General Motors at the time was incredibly front-wheel drive obsessed, and according to project engineer Dave Hill, quote, "Front-wheel drive is the correct modern way to go for all but racing applications." Boy, did that age like milk.
4-speed automatic overdrive transmission to give Alante its spirited over-the-road performance. Also significant is Alante's front-wheel drive. Unique in the ultra-luxury class, this configuration was specifically chosen for Alante because it provides superior handling and vehicle stability in a variety of driving conditions.
Now, of course, a vehicle of this caliber couldn't just go to any owner. And according to Automobile Magazine, back when these cars were new, dealers were encouraged to select potential Alante owners early on with emphasis on those thought leaders and innovators whom the crowd follows, and those with incomes in 6 figures.
Once you have identified your prospect's buying motives, you can easily tailor the walkaround to fit his or her buyer type, emphasizing technical, style, or prestige features accordingly.
Apparently, Cadillac's worst fear is that the Allante should become the darling of pimps and poppers.
What?
It says that right there.
Does it really?
Yes, it does. And just to show that I'm not making that up, it says it right there, pimps and poppers.
To ensure that no pimps or poppers would be enticed by the Cadillac Allante, it was up to Pininfarina to design a sleek and elegant body. And according to Sergio Pininfarina, he maintains that, quote, this is Autocar 1986, "The outward appearance of the car is vital, comparing it to the first time one sees a girl. The impression," oh God.
Maybe don't try the Italian accent.
Can you do an Italian accent?
Yeah.
Damn it. "The first impressions," he says, "are very important. If the girl is nice, you ask if she is well educated, speaks languages, if she is rich. But if she is ugly, it takes time to find out these things." So what do we think in the comments? Is this a good-looking rich girl, or is this an ugly, uneducated one? Oh God. I'm pissed it off. You're beautiful. You're rich. What does one do in this situation?
What if you lock and unlock the door from the outside?
Good idea, Case. Oh God.
I think it thinks it's a pretty girl.
I think it thinks it's a pretty girl.
Now, look, it's not uncommon for automakers to farm off engineering or even production of cars to other companies. So, for example, the G-Wagon is a Mercedes product, but it's not actually made by Mercedes in a Mercedes facility.
No, it's made by Magna.
Yeah, same thing with the Supra.
Yeah, and even the Ineos Grenadier.
Yeah, and even yeah, I guess that was engineered by Magna. I think that one's made by Ineos, but the Z4 is also made by a third party, right, along with the Supra.
Yeah.
So that's not unusual, but what is unusual is having a major company ship off the design and engineering and manufacturing of a major component like a body, especially on a plane, and then have them reassemble it at another facility. That's pretty unusual.
Especially considering it was completely unnecessary because GM had more than enough resources to do it themselves.
Oh, for sure.
They just wanted the prestigious name that was associated with Europe.
And it upset a lot of GM internals, right? You're building a flagship, but you don't trust your own internal team, or you don't want your own internal team to do the design and some of the body engineering. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. One of the most interesting parts of the Cadillac Allante story is also one of the reasons that the car just didn't work. And that's what's known as the airbridge. Because in order to assemble and build parts of this car in Italy and finish other parts of it back here in the States, they had to have 3 747s to fly the shells and the parts back and forth, and it was unbelievably expensive.
Alante bodies were manufactured in Italy by Pininfarina in a brand new state-of-the-art facility outside of Turin called San Giorgio Canavese. Problem with the San Giorgio Canavese factory is it weirdly wasn't particularly close to the airport where these were flown back to Michigan, but more on that story in a second. Now, the bodies were manufactured in a new facility, and then they had to be shipped to a separate facility to have the interiors installed. Keep in mind, at this point, it was just the bodies and interiors, no running gear.
Meanwhile, while these bodies were being built, GM sent components like air conditioning, electronics, and steering columns over to Italy to meet the cars there where they were being partially built.
The complete body, electronics, and interiors were then shipped via truck roughly 30 minutes to the airport in Turin, Italy, where they were loaded into the ever-famous 747s. Now, these weren't just any normal 747s. These were freight-equipped 747s that had to be customized by Lufthansa, Alitalia, if I'm saying that correctly, and Boeing. And these 747s were outfitted with aluminum racks where they could stack Alantes 56 wide and deep, and then make the long trip from Turin, Italy, all the way over to the Detroit airport, where they were then unloaded at the GM terminal to be shipped to the Hamtramck assembly plant, where engines, powertrains, fuel tanks, wheels were installed. And then General Motors would drive each Alante 25 miles to check for quality issues and faults. If this sounds like it was an expensive process, it was an immensely expensive process.
Now, the costs to engineer this airbridge, what they called the world's longest assembly line,
Yep.
was immense. So just in logistics to Alitalia, or the Italian airline, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, $100 million in 1985 money.
For logistics.
For logistics. That's $300 million in today's money, which is just insane to think about. That's not even to engineer the car, that's just to move the bodies around. Now, originally the contracts were with the Italians and also Lufthansa. Ultimately, Lufthansa dropped out because the demand just wasn't great enough to require 2 airlines to ship the bodies over, which is nuts. Now, 56 bodies at a time, right? We're looking at 400 trips to get all the cars over the production line. I mean, not only is it immensely expensive, it's terrible for the environment. And the thing I still can't figure out, and none of the articles nor the online research that I can tell me, is why. I mean, one of the articles quotes, you know, you get some benefit in terms of perhaps speed, although arguably not, because you have to build the car in 2 different assemblies. Another article I read said, well, you get higher quality shipping, they're less likely to be damaged on a boat. But all of these seem like truly ridiculous reasons to spend $300 million just to fly cars around on 747s.
And that's just really scratching the surface, because those were some of the costs. They even had to better equip the airport in Turin for 747s to be able to land there. So the airport itself had to be changed for this car to be flown in and out.
So not only did GM have to still fundamentally engineer a lot of the car, because the engine, the subframes, the brakes, that was all GM, right? But they had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for shipping. They had to pay to upgrade an airport. It was just insane.
Yeah.
The cost overruns were nuts.
We've been trying to come up with an analogy for this car, and we think we found one based on one of your favorite restaurants.
That's right, the Olive Garden. So this car is like if Olive Garden manufactured the marinara sauce in the US and then shipped it over to Italy,
where then it could be packaged and made to look very Italian,
and then shipped back to the US, where they would pour it on your pasta and call it Italian, even though it's clearly very American.
Yeah, which is another way of saying it didn't really make sense.
No, it didn't make sense, and it wasn't a sales success. I think Cadillac was expecting to produce something like 40,000 Alantes, and they barely cracked 20,000 Alantes. The problem was that, while the story of this car is very interesting, fundamentally the car couldn't really compete in a lot of levels.
No, the vehicles that this was supposed to be going up against had a lot of things over it.
Now, I think the problems with the Allante were best summed up by Motor Trend in this 1988 comparison against the Corvette, the Ferrari 328 GTS, the 560 SL, and the Porsche 911 Cabriolet. The Allante was far from the cheapest when it came to base price, actually the second most expensive at a whopping $56,000 in 1988 money. And then came the performance. In their performance evaluation, the 911 ran a respectable 6.5 seconds 0 to 60, the Mercedes was 6.8, the Ferrari 6.7, Case's mighty C4 Corvette 6.0, and the Allante took 9.5 seconds to do 0 to 60. And then came their subjective evaluations. Quote, the Allante tied for third in wine country. This was a Napa, California test. Finished fourth in daily use and won a few unsuspecting hearts in the process. Quote, easy to live with, said one driver, and quote, an exclusive at this point because its virtues have yet to be discovered by the general public. Ouch! But the reality was, as interesting as the design was on the Allante, as innovative as some of the interior tech was, and as insane as the production process was, the Allante just couldn't compete when it came to performance. Even though that GM engineer said front-wheel drive, that's the way of the modern era, clearly to enthusiasts and luxury car fanatics alike, that's not just the case. And when coupled with a rather anemic V8 engine, the Italian heritage just couldn't sell the cars.
So a couple other things about the Allante, and ultimately the reason I think that it wasn't taken seriously by a lot of buyers of luxury, not even sports cars, but just luxury convertibles in general, is the powertrain was a little weak. So this car launched with a 4.1 liter V8. This one's got the 4.5.
Yeah, it's a V8 and it motivates the car, but it is not a performance car.
No, 4-speed automatic. They did beef up the automatic transmission compared to like a Toronado or an Eldorado, but it's just not a very engaging driving experience. Now that's not to say it's not a nice car to drive. It's actually pretty decent.
It's very pleasant, smooth, it is luxurious, and it feels pretty refined for the era.
Yeah, even this kind of clapped out one with 107,000 miles, it's a smooth riding and driving car that goes and stops like you'd expect.
Yeah, we love driving it.
Yeah, and this engine, once again, it's just one of the funniest things about this car to me because it's a pushrod V8, and it's got a mixed construction.
Aluminum block, so you would figure what's the head material?
Aluminum.
Nope, cast iron.
I had a journalist describe it to me this way: no one GM'd harder than GM. And this is just like a classic case of what are you thinking? So you get none of the performance benefits of an aluminum head, but you get all of the cost and complexity of an aluminum block made into an iron head.
Makes sense to me.
What are they thinking? Now, I think it was 92 for the 93 model year, they launched the North Star in this car. And the North Star was an immensely sophisticated engine at the time, dual overhead cam, all aluminum construction. Also kind of a catastrophe though for Cadillac reliability.
Yeah, that was a different catastrophe all in itself.
But all joking aside, listen, for a couple $1,000s, if you can buy one of these for under $5K that runs and drives, it's a really nice kind of fun classic experience because it's just like nothing else really on the road.
Now, both of us would genuinely consider buying one of these in the right condition if the price was right.
So Case, in that comparison test, Ferrari 328, well over $100,000 today. C4 Corvette, what, 10 for a good one?
Yeah, not much.
Mercedes, probably 30 grand. Porsche 911 from this era, 60, 70, $80,000. How much is an Allante worth?
Well, we got this one for, what, 1,500 bucks?
2 grand, something like that. So clearly history has agreed when it comes to the collectability. Now I will say Cadillac did do some really cool things with the Allante in the 1990s when they fitted it with the North Star, which was a great performer at 300 horsepower, but long term,
yeah, it's not the best engine. But a lot of the reasons that this car was a failure back when it came out are some of the things that make it cool now. So
yeah.
We actually appreciate this car a lot, even though it was a massive flop.
Yeah, and they're incredibly great value, and they present a really interesting driving experience that you really can't get today in this kind of personal luxury two-seater convertible.
So, despite everything, we actually highly recommend the Alante.
Yes, I love it. I think it's really interesting. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. This has been Tommy.
In Case.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Are you pissed, Mary? I spent $35 on this book called Cadillac Allante limited edition extra, but it is the best $35 I've ever spent. Alitalia.
Alitalia. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Oh!
There's a lot of ways I would describe that spider, but big ass is not one of them, Mary.
Steering column and electronics, steering columns, plural, with an analogy. And everyone was dead.